SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
A Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown.
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
Our host, Neil Simpson.
If one light goes out, they all go out.
Filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. My name is Neil.
It's 2026, people.
And it is 2026. And to quote the Savage, this is what growth feels like.
Yeah, uncomfortable. Change.
Change is hard.
Change.
Which actually will be fitting for today's topic, which is, do Jeepers still Jeep together? And as I said, my name is Neil, and I'm obviously with Simpson Family Jeeps, SFJ4x4.com.
And he is sure of that.
I am sure of it. And I am joined in Grandma's couch studio
By the guy that won't leave, the mad scientist, Scott Brown.
Right.
And Jeff is out rushing children around to hospitals. So
which actually is par for the course for the Shiramontes. They should have a frequent flyer card.
Especially for the middle one.
Yes. So, well, we wish them the best with that. Now, and so we are down a man, as Nathan was saying, and so we have some comments coming in. So I'm doing my best.
He's doing both things because he's on Grandma's couch.
Because I'm on Grandma's couch. So those of you who are listening in your ear holes at a latter date, or only ever join us through a streaming, through your favorite streaming podcast platform. Jeffrey and I typically sit together on Grandma's couch, and he would do the production value from the one side closest to the computer, and then our on-screen monitor.
And we're making, history today. Sorry, I had to think about what the word I want to use. Because we have never done a podcast sans Jeff. We have done it without Neil before, and it crashed and burned. So we have, we have low hanging fruit to succeed over this.
Right.
But this is a first that Jeff is actually not here. So
yeah. So there are some comments. Do I know how to read them? Not really. All right, that's good enough.
Just take the mic out and just pretend you're on the Grand Ole Opry.
Phones are falling. I should be able to go between Jeff's mic and my mic. So we've got Nathan. He's first, saying good morning. He's also encouraging somebody to wake Joe up so he doesn't miss the show. I think I saw Joe out wheeling this weekend, doing some recovery.
That makes sense.
Also saw Rob Morgan out playing. So he says good morning. Billy Joe, good morning. It's another cold one. It sure is.
Absolutely.
Morning from Rob Seaman. Bill McWilliams was out getting recovered this weekend, I saw. I personally am under the impression that Bill McWilliams made it about 15 feet onto the trailhead and then immediately had to get snatched out. But that's just what the social media story was. Bill says, good morning. Nathan, down a man this morning. Eric Elliott, good morning, gentlemen. Bill McWilliams, we stretched the YJ over the weekend with a zombie rope. Did you stretch the YJ or the rope?
Well, depending on the shape of the YJ, you could do both.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the YJ. The YJ might not be in the best of shape at this point. Joe Bryan, God help us. Neil trying to be the producer. Believe me, Joe. I feel every bit of that concern. Yvonne, have a great morning. And Bill says true story. So
absolutely
not a confirm nor deny the state of the YJ on their wheeling experience, but I believe, and I believe that they did only make it down, a few feet of it. Now, that coverage you can find on Daddy Jeep, Rob Morgan's social pages, which I'm here for the facilitation of the Jeep community, which is in part what we're going to be talking about ourselves, right? And that sharing is caring as far as belonging to clubs, going out wheeling, different events, so on and so forth. And those are the things we're going to be unpacking today's program. Now, as a value added experience, we're going to be doing our best to muddle through. Those of you who are listening at the later date, you too can join us and see in live time the chaos that is, me attempting to sit in both seats, figuratively and literally, and most Mondays at 10:19 a.m. Now, Jeffrey was intending to continue to sow the seed of he has a potential big announcement. I need everyone to know this was not it,
yes.
right? This was authentically his child got sick over the weekend, as I know a number of people did, but the peculiarity of his conditions and symptoms, they need to just go to that next level of care. And they were able
expedited fashion.
Yes, in an expedited fashion, and so Jeffrey ran out of here to go, provide care for his family. So best of luck to them. I am intending to do a 2-minute takeaway. I couldn't help myself. I want folks to be conscientious of a couple things. For a long time, if you friend me or follow me on a social page, I am going to pay attention to you. I need you to know that, right? I mean, it's fascinating.
Soaps.
Yeah, it's fascinating how many people think that they just want to, that think it's not reciprocal per se.
Sands in the hourglass.
Right. So I'm going to know what's going on in your world. Likewise, I am in all of these different clubs and social pages for a myriad of peculiar topics.
Yep.
Recognizing most recently when I was explaining to somebody and I got long-winded, go figure, regarding undercoating procedures.
Yes.
And the fact that I'm actually in a...
Where you were impassioned.
I am impassioned. I was in this impassioned conversation and I could see this individual's eyes glaze over. And I realized that...
It's a weird feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, that I was talking about kind of, how you effectively use, wool wax or fluid film or NH oil or... Crown or Croil or what, pick your poison, right? Mm-hmm. So with all of that said, I'm going to do my 2-minute takeaway. This was part of it. I was recently in a page where, there were some folks out there talking about winter wheeling. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say this with my whole chest, and I need people to understand winter wheeling, and it tracks similarly to wheeling in the muck and the mire and whatnot. It is my belief you should not be in 4-low. Mm-hmm. Likewise, you should not have your lockers on. Mm-hmm. If you find yourself in an opportunity where you're going out to do...
Well, unless you want to plant the Jeep solidly wherever it is, then low and locker away, because it will be there.
It will just dig itself...
To China.
To China. And I watched this conversation transpire and I just thought to myself, I wanted to engage, right? And I thought, no, it's just another, I'm just a guy with an opinion on the internet, right? But I'm not, because I've got decades of experience and I understand how all these things tie together. And the problem is when you go to a facilitated wheeling event, mm-hmm. they encourage you to go in low range mm-hmm. and turn on your traction devices if you have them, which is not right. And I understand the reason you do that is because of exposure to risk and liability. Mm-hmm. You're less likely to mar up a trail if you're not, if you're spinning your tires.
Not only that, and they're either going to make it or they're stuck. So it's pretty cut and dry. And in those situations, those events always have a crew of happy Jeepers ready to go and recover anyone that might possibly be stuck. So honestly, it's a win-win in their situation. Yeah. They get to recover stuck people and they don't mar up the trail and things kind of move along. Now, when you're snow wheeling and you maybe are off by yourselves and help is not in your back pocket. Right. You don't want to get stuck immediately.
Correct.
Because it's cold.
Yes.
And now you've exposed yourself to some dangers. And And I can attest, we've been wheeling a long time, and we're not, the average dummy. And I have had my butt handed to me by winter wheeling more than once.
Absolutely.
So much so, because I'm just a huge risk taker. I won't even do it anymore because
it just totally is a new dynamic. It's a completely changed
take
dynamic.
everything you thought you knew about wheeling, wad it up, and throw it out the window.
Right.
It is a whole different experience. Your setup doesn't work like it used to. And I have been the guy that has gone into the trail all happy and then spent 6 to 8 hours to get out of that trail because, and we're not talking like I went and had fun either. We got in, we slid down a hill, and now we worked the rest of the day to get back out at great expense of straps and time and effort and gasoline and winching and braking things. And then I've also, slid backwards down a trail. May had to get out of the Jeep after that one and clean out some shorts.
Right.
So at this point, somebody's like, "Hey, you want to go winter wheeling?" Nah, man, I'm good. I'm just going to drive back and forth to work.
So, and I would be inclined to go still, but that's obviously the difference between us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
that's just you.
I'll end up barefoot or in my boots off and
Yeah.
doing what I
Frostbite.
do with no heat or whatever. But I saw this interaction online and I need to break this down in general, right? For people who are inspired to do this. When you are in low range, the mechanical advantage of the energy produced by your driveline is applied as torque.
It's excited.
It's excited. Torque. See, I'm having a hard time going between the comments.
He wants to read the comments.
I want to read the comments because I don't know who said this, but it's a fantastic statement. But I'm going to finish so torque is, and I'm not going to get into like torque and horsepower and all that kind of stuff.
Come on, I always loved.
But realistically, when you are in a mucky situation where you have like
you have lots of lubricity
of sorts, and say like a snotty, muddy, clayey area or snow and ice, that just means that your tires are going to break free faster.
Yes.
Okay. So torque equals tires breaking free faster. That's why oftentimes if you're a manual, you might actually find yourself, if wheeling in low, you might find yourself starting in third gear.
Yeah.
Or rowing the gears in a different manner. Lockers and low is for low, slow, grippy situations because otherwise your tires are going to break free. So when you tell me that you got stuck in low range and lockers on, I know that you're not actually experienced in wheeling, nor do you know how the environment changes that scenario. Likewise, you want to, and obviously if low and lockers are on, your traction control is off. But if you're an individual who does not have these things, and why I read this interaction and I started to see the how it plays out, and obviously then we started just being a bunch of monkeys throwing poo because there was a bunch of accusations and stuff. I end up going out to one of my properties where it's like 2-3 feet. I'm in my wife's Jeep, which is just as much as I've told you guys, it's a mall crawler. It's on BFG KO2s. They're honestly not my best BFG KO2s. I've got betters in my repertoire, but this was easier. They were already mounted on wheels. I threw them on. They're about 60% BFG KO2 tread life. I turned on my traction control. I was in 4 high, and I easily traversed through, at least 2 foot of snow in these little grades, up and down grades. And the thing is, you need to be able to clean out your tires because you need to be grabbing, the tread needs to be cleared out and grab the next bit of traction gaining material that it can. There are then some kind of minutia or idiosyncratic things that you should be doing while wheeling in these types of conditions, but I can assure you low range and lockers is not it. That'll actually load up the tires. They actually won't be able to spin out to clean out sufficiently. And so ultimately my encouragement to people is as you're enjoying the weather, you know, and the 4x4s that we drive, 4 high for snow wheeling purposes to the best of your ability, traction control off. If you are a person who's not in a Jeep and you find yourself stuck, turn your traction control off to get unstuck.
Well, and you should have your friends with Jeeps on speed dial.
100%.
Come pull your Bronco out.
100%. There's my 2-minute takeaway. And I'd love to, you know, people who want to reach out to the program and email us at contact@sfj4x4. Tell me about your winter experiences and what your tips and tricks are. Let us know. Or, you know, you can jump in the comments. I'm going to switch over to Jeff's here because we've got Billy Joe weighing in on Bill McWilliams, saying we definitely got stuck a lot. It was a blast. It was cold enough that the fire didn't want to burn. We went back to Rob's to cook. That's why you got to cook things on the manifold of your Jeep when you're winter wheeling.
That's fair.
Tin foil and, you know, cans of beans.
Tin foil and motor oil.
What? What are you talking about? I'm talking about warming up food.
Yeah, on the manifold. So it's right next to the leaky valve cover that you have.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you got enough tinfoil, it's not gonna matter. Jogga Jeepers, good morning. And Bradford is on saying, good sunshined morning. Good morning to you, Bradford. Nathan, when Neil says decades of experience, why do I always picture an old man shouting at the clouds?
I mean,
he's
fair.
not wrong. At this point, I and we're going to talk about that as far as the social piece is concerned today, is I think that, and I'll expand upon why I feel this way, but Nathan's not wrong. Rob Morgan, I was struggling and overheating in high range. The old Dub J was working too hard. Braking trail 4 low was absolutely necessary.
Well, we'll give Rob a pass because he knows what he's doing and is equipped to handle what he gets himself into. So
and that's fair.
It's just like always. There's an exception to the rule always.
And that's exactly right. I mean, as I say, there is a process to it. My rub of sorts, and of course, I have no idea what that Rob was doing any of that, because that's actually a thing that we run into with doing parades, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. But
I will introduce Rob to a new concept, though, called the Cherokee break. When your Cherokee is getting warm, you need to take a break. The Jeep is asking for a rest. You may or may not have to open your hood. If you will see other Cherokees with their hoods open, it is time to go see them on the Cherokee break and spread that Jeep love.
God, I remember taking Cherokee break. That was our primary wheeling. I love it. Jogga Jeepers, we did a recovery class this weekend. We all got stuck on purpose to show recovery techniques. That's very cool. I wonder where that was. Joe O'Brien, winter wheeling is a totally different animal. Agreed. Ken Kushner, good morning, checking in. Bill McWilliams, I am that guy, no locker, 33-inch tires, YJ running behind Daddy Jeep, braking trail. Mm-hmm. Nathan says, old man comment was meant with all due respect. No, it wasn't. That's okay. I can both dish it and take it. I have a thick enough skin, folks. I'm not worried. So with that the nature of the old man comment, I've recently come to the realization, or at least this is my generalized talking point, that in the grand scheme of the world, we are not exactly those old men that oftentimes people see getting into business. In fact, when I started the company, people would show up and they'd ask for my dad, thinking that was, you know, the moat.
And we were young, we couldn't know anything.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. But
We're
I think
just really old souls, people.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, what you see is what you get. But the big thing with us specifically is the fact that we haven't changed what we're interested in,
right?
And that's just something that
we've doubled down.
Yeah, we've doubled down. That there's a realization that I've shared with people. You know, as much as I fancy the idea of the side-by-side and ATV market, and you recently had a utility one that was just kind of a fun.
Yeah, I like to dip my toes in once in a while.
And we ultimately talk about our 6 weeks of interest, right? Yep. Like, oh, hey, this is air quotes fun distraction to learn something new. We all like to continue to learn and expand our knowledge base.
But then you have your main, what you come back to.
Our main meat and potatoes, right? Whereas what business has taught us is there's a lot of people who have known about Jeeps. They thought Jeeps were cool, but they never kind of fit in their lifestyle.
Yeah. So then they want to dip their toes in and let's try the 6 weeks. And either they're going to do their 6 weeks and be like, oh, that was fun, deuces, or we're going to double down and we're going to reinvest.
And they get really, really invested of sorts. And there are people who, maybe will start an enterprise, and they'll run it for 4 or 5 years. And they, as you said, they're kind of double down in that, but then they get out of it entirely and they move on to something else. I feel like I can reasonably at liberty talk about this individual. We had a customer acquaintance that I got to know pretty well. And at one point in life, he was really, really into logging, like actual forestry logging. Then he switched to dog training and actually opened up a kennel and a boarding and dog training facility. And he kind of shoved that off to the side and he got really big into slot cars. Like really, really big into slot cars. And that tracked for a couple of years. And he got really big into Harleys and then back into dogs and then into Jeeps. Right. And so his interest base, and he gets really, really heavily, overly, excitedly invested.
Yep.
For a period of time.
Yep.
And then he transitions.
Yep.
Whereas you and I
we're
muddle through
continually.
Just continually.
Yeah. We're also those weird people that kind of don't get enough of it. We literally eat, sleep, drink.
And I find that so peculiar because, again, I go home and I hang out on the same social pages of the stuff that I'm literally customer service talking to people, of what I'm literally physically touching the Jeep on.
We work on Jeeps all day and then go home and look at groups of people talking about Jeeps.
And trucks and trailers. And
videos of Jeeps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to say that do Jeepers still Jeep together, the concept that we were, sharing to elaborate upon today was yet again on another social page. There was some folks who were reminiscing about what I might call the
good old days.
For them, it was the good old days.
Absolutely.
Right. And what this was what I think we can call the JK boom.
Yep.
Okay. And specifically, it was notable that this individual had addressed basically 2016 to 20 or 21-ish, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. I don't remember where it trailed off. And I think it's important to note that at 2016, we are roughly 10 or so years into the JK production.
But by 16, it started to get its stride. The Ultimate came out in 15. We actually just went over that with me and Davey this morning, so got to throw that tidbit in there. You had a lot of...
The Ultimate axle, you're saying?
Ultimate front axle.
Sure.
You had a lot of redevelopment and doubling down with the companies that were specific to JKs. You had the greatest lift kits made, all that kind of stuff. So you were in the thick of it. You could get any part you sort of desired. And for us, we've kind of rode this train for a while. So we've seen, the catalogs come and go and the part availability come and go. We remember looking at catalogs and books when we were kids that, it was all CJ and some YJ stuff.
Absolutely.
And then it doubled down on YJs. And then the TJ came out and we heard all these people, oh my, it's going to change the industry and it's going to change my experience. And it did, but that became the norm. And then the JK came out and it was the same thing like the TJ when it came out. Oh, it's the new thing. I don't know what I feel about this. And then it changed the industry. So some people continue on and just keep hopping from wave to wave and keep climbing. And some people decide to stay in their wave that they're in and they double down and they will have a YJ for the rest of their life.
Correct.
And that is the best Jeep they ever made. And the crazy part is, and it's always my job to come back to the horse and buggy.
I just want you to know, twofold. One, I threw up in my mouth when you said that you would even remotely utter the words that the YJ was the best Jeep that was ever made.
Well, for 2 seconds it was. And then the TJ came out, and it was just
I
blown
think
off
I have
the
a crick
ball.
in my neck now. All of a sudden, like I actually had like a pain shoot through the back of my brain. And this is an individual who's owned multiple YJs.
Yeah, glutton for
Glutton for punishment.
Anyway, everyone feels the era they're kind of born into.
Sure.
And, we've had Willie's guys did this, or Willis guys, whatever camp you want to be in.
Yes.
CJ guys did this. There was a time when a CJ7 was the pretty Jeep, and you weren't a real Jeeper because now it's not stick, and there's comforts and stuff like that. And now we're at the point where people are, paramount of CJ7's a real Jeep, and everything else.
Why would you ever need a V8 and a CJ?
Yes,
Period.
that was a thing.
That was a thing.
Absolutely.
And so times change and a little bit people kind of don't. You know what I mean? And I'm with you entirely. The other piece that I would add is that with the changing of the guard, if you are ingrained in a particular model, you have a hard time seeing the value in the new generation, the new iteration.
Yep. And you will have people that will be a model year behind. Recently had a customer call in, and he has rode the TJ train as long and hard as he can. And being in our climate, the TJs are falling apart on him.
Yes.
And now he's starting to think about a JK. Starting to think.
We are 19 years removed from the first JK production.
Yes. So now he is flirting with the idea of replacing his TJ with a JK. And I'm sure this had been a long process for him.
Yes.
And part of me wanted to be like, just jump over the JK and buy a JL.
Right.
But that's too. That's jumping too fast.
Risque. Yes.
That's just crazy. We got to stick with what we know. We already have things about the JK that are too different than the TJ, so it's a culture shock enough. And so small baby steps.
Yes. And so I think that it's valuable to kind of paint this picture, and I like to approach it in the sense that despite the infighting, despite the commentary of how you should wheel, how you should recover, because there are always going to be exceptions to rules. There are always going to be a degree of give and take. That Jeepers come back together and are unified across cultures, across interests, across models, under this singular cultural brand, lifestyle, and identity.
Yep.
Right. And I think that is really, really fascinating to me. And the piece that I get really excited about, which is realistically what a lot of people want to talk. We get back to the YJ and things start to get a little fuzzy because people who saw relevancy between the CJ and the YJ and the TJ have kind of largely shifted gears and maybe left the community.
Yep.
There's fewer and fewer of those, right? But between the TJ, people who are hopelessly devoted to the TJ, and then the JK, and now the JL, we really see this kind of whole investment. I'm into my model.
Not only that, we've seen a transition where at one time everyone's daily was a TJ, and then you had the new kids on the block with the JK, and I can't afford that payment, or I can't justify paying that kind of money and beating the crap out of it. But then you get to a point where the TJs are starting to get long in the tooth, where they don't make sense for a daily anymore. So now they're kind of shifting into toy status on a major cultural shift, where yes, you're going to have some guys that are trying to double down on daily a TJ, but for the majority of the experience, they're going to transition where that is now your summer vehicle, that is your wheeler. We've seen CJs go that way.
We see CJs go that way. I feel like we saw the XJ go that way.
Absolutely.
You've got either great, awesome XJs or absolute
garbage.
clapped out trash
Yes.
boxes.
The middle of the bologna sandwich is shrinking severely. We have the bottom bun and the top bun, and the bottom is in the middle is a vacuum.
Right.
And TJs are sort of there as well, where we have these people that are like, hey, I found this low mileage, really nice one. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to go get ice cream. And then you have the ones that are just built like, you know, as a weapon, as a purpose. And they're going to go out and wheel that thing and they're going to use it. But again, that may not be their go-to for their daily.
Right.
Kind of, for example, Rob is a perfect example. His YJ, could he drive it every day? Yeah. Neil would.
Oh, yeah. In a heartbeat.
But he has his Denali Escalade thing
Right.
that he doesn't have to.
Right.
So
And that's how it helps that situation make sense.
Yes.
And so kind of this ebb and flow, this natural progression, I think it's valuable to go back and understand that the earliest CJs, and I made that V8 reference, the earliest CJs were glorified tractors.
Yes.
The manner in which they were marketed to U.S. domestic markets is that they were a utilitarian vehicle to help you on the farm. They optionally had a top. They optionally had doors and
It optionally had a passenger seat. You were supposed to go out and furrow your field.
Yes.
And then you were supposed to go and use it to drive your sawmill off your rear PTO.
Yes.
And then you were going to go find your seat that you misplaced in the barn and stuff your wife and kids in it and drive it to town and get your grain or bread or whatever you needed for the farm. And then you're going to drive home and do something else farmy with it.
So by the, and this crosses a little bit into the hot rod world.
Absolutely.
That by the 50s and the 60s is kind of iconic era.
Yes.
And of course, the Jeep had only, had been out about a decade, maybe two.
Well, we had made everything really useful and kind of boring, honestly.
Right.
Everything, it had a purpose. It did it well. It was easy to work on, that kind of stuff. And the guys coming back from World War II, they wanted, they had been in airplanes. They had been in tanks. They had seen some stuff.
Yeah.
And they wanted some excitement. So what do? You go find a big motor and you stuff it in things.
Sure.
And we started to see V8 swaps all over the place, kits available. Again, I kind of cringe, but small block Chevys and that kind of stuff were kind of what you started with. And we've seen tons of, even dauntless swaps going into these earlier Jeeps that were just 4 cylinders. And this was some for necessity, as the 4 cylinders were blowing up and wearing out and that kind of stuff. And you look at it, and just like, the big LS queries where LSs were cheap and everywhere, that's how it was for a small block Chevy back then.
Right.
So I could spend all this money on redoing my 4-cylinder and have 60 horsepower, or I could spend half and put a V8 in it.
Right.
And that's what happened. So the OEs take notice, just like they do today. And they started saying, well, we should offer bigger motors, which is what the Dauntless started as. And then we got into factory V8s. And really, if we're honest, the 6-cylinders are amazing comparison to what the 4-cylinders
Absolutely.
were. So you had, again, a example of a big culture shock. If you were the old, farmer that everything was useful and you didn't have anything flashy or that kind of stuff, and your 60 horsepower did just fine, the 120 horse 258, that's just ridiculous. We don't need all that.
And of course, at that time people have transitioned. We don't have the technology distraction that we have.
Yeah.
Both in the swaps that were happening, the interest in the vehicles. We also had a social and fraternal society. People were joining. They were already involved in granges. They were already involved in their local social fraternity, sorority-esque groups.
And it was because you didn't have communication as available as you do today. It was more in small communities. So you would have a grange in every little town. You would have, which then slowly switch over to clubs. And like you were saying, You just say it.
Fraternal?
Yep,
No, that word? That word?
Organizations, and you.
I want to know kind of what word you were going to put
I was
together
trying to
there.
put that together.
Fratitional. I might just start to use it as fratitional.
That's fine.
But as you're saying, the clubs are growing,
Yeah.
and that then extends into the car community,
Yes.
right? And so we see car clubs, and not just like Travel America car clubs, which was a thing.
Absolutely.
Right? And tourist groups and camping and whatnot, which was a group that eventually, and of course this gives way to Easter Jeep Safari, which is basically a group of Red Rock four-wheelers said, we're going to get together and we're going to do this trip,
Yep.
right? And it's this
I gotta-
beautiful conglomeration of Americana and vehicles.
I got a 2-second sidebar that you'll go, why is this connected? And then you'll understand.
Perfect.
So there was a Dragnet episode, and it was about hot rods.
Okay.
And they were talking about the kids in the jalopies, and they were raising riffraff, and the cars were unsafe, and all this other stuff. And I can't for the life of me remember the guy's name, but he was a bigger hot rodder guy that was nationally known.
Okay.
And they literally had him and one of the hot rods on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about the NSRA, not the NSRA, the hot rod and drag racing clubs.
Okay.
And the basically the expense is like, we are formulating a club, and we are going to then make the kids rise to our level. They have to be safe. They have to meet this criteria. They have to not be causing riffraff. So we're basically putting some
Constraints in order to raise the bar a little.
raise the bar so that you're not looking at us as hooligans.
Mm-hmm.
And really, Jeep clubs are no different.
Yes.
You know, you had people out tearing up a farmer's field. That doesn't benefit anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So you have clubs starting to form, and you have people then saying, okay, as a club, we're not going to go turf a yard. We're
Yes.
not going to go get in a farmer's field. And now you have a community with an expectation of how you're going to utilize your vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you more legitimate. It makes you kind of connected as a group. The biggest challenge I see with this is usually, and we've seen it 2 or 3 times now, you'll have a main leader that'll be passionate on a certain front. Maybe he's really impassioned about not gray wheeling, or really impassioned about this certain type of wheeling, or just a certain social event. And you'll have a group form kind of in that thoroughfare that they enjoy that. And just like anything other than me and Neil, most people are into stuff for 5 to 10 to 15 years, and life happens.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a change of the guard of that club, of the main president will step down or change. And by just natural effect, the club direction will slightly shift.
Sure.
And you'll see people leaving the club and other people joining the club, because now it's not the club it once was. And I think that's kind of what you were kind of going for with this topic, is not only is it about the models and the Jeeps and that kind of stuff, but it's a social event.
Correct.
And as younger people or different people get into the thing, it changes.
Right.
Where it's a constant flux. And because of that, it's not stagnant. It's not going to be what you remember it as all the time.
Correct. And that's, as I was kind of, as we kind of build upon this, and I was painting the picture of the bigger engines and the more technical stuff. We have, fortunately for us, where we're physically located, what I like to call the breadbasket of Jeep and 4x4ing, between Butler and Toledo. But also we had a number of prolific clubs and organizations that contributed positively in very intense moments throughout the model's lifetime to give this deeply ingrained base of people who were enthusiastic.
Yep.
And each town, as you know, had a 4x4 club along with a hot rod club or a car club.
Yep.
And they might have had a small business that popped up, and that would have helped create like an epicenter of this.
Yep.
And one of the things that I particularly like from a current operating group, Oil Valley Jeeps, and they offer a ride. Unfortunately, due to weather and whatnot, it was canceled this year. But they offer a ride where they have reopened a piece of property that once was a hotbed in Western Pennsylvania for club activity. Because at that time, as you had mentioned, they get very impassioned around a specific thing. Clubs, like the Western PA Jeepers Association or some name to that, with Pappy Fry, and Tri-County Four-Wheelers over here in Ohio, and Fred Motice was part of that.
Yep.
And then there was yet like another kind of a primary one. They would get together and they would race their vehicles. They
Yes.
did hill climbs, they did sand drags, they might have done a mud drag,
Obstacle course.
and then obstacle course or a woods course.
Yep.
And we see this ebb and flow starting as early as potentially the 60s and 70s with some of these localized clubs. And quite frankly, the social media posts that I saw, you know, hearkening back to the days of the heyday of the Jeep, the 16 to 20 or whatever,
Yeah.
that pays no homage to these folks who were doing incredible stuff with their dauntless, you know, V6s
Yes.
in the 80s,
Yeah.
right? And of course, and all of it in my book is respectable. I
it
believe
all-
it's relevant to
It's a
their
puzzle piece. It all
it's a
connects
puzzle
together.
piece. And you know, and I talk about Fred because I love him dearly and his contribution to the Jeep community at this point. Fred's intense moment where he was involved with this race circuit and building his Jeep and doing club activities and being relevant, despite the fact that that's not really a large piece of the Jeep of JLs or JK market right now, is just as relevant as the heyday of the JK model in 16, 17,
And
18,
not only that,
whatever.
And something we've always talked about is Jeep stories and what got you interested in Jeeps. Everyone has a Jeep story, and we've been talking about trying to record that forever, but you have to have that grandpappy of the Jeeps
Yeah.
for the young people to grow up and see. And I remember mine. I was a young kid walking around with my grandma, and there was a bright red YJ, I'm pretty sure, or it could have been a CJ7. At that age, I didn't care. I saw a topless Jeep. It was bright red. It had bigger tires, and it was cool.
Sure.
And I remember telling my grandma, like, Grandma, I'm going to get one of those, and we're going to go drive around someday.
Right.
Here we are.
Yes. Yes.
So if that person wouldn't have drove that Jeep that day in
Yes.
that road, I wouldn't have seen it, and I wouldn't have been interested in this direction. And that's important too, as you cultivate this, is you have to remember when you're in that club and you're in that moment, you are the person people are looking up to
Yes.
and are measuring their metric. And as those younger crowd gets involved, it's going to change,
Mm-hmm.
but it's keeping it alive.
Yep.
And I think it's kind of cool that as it evolves and moves along.
Yeah. And I think that evolution of that intrapersonal, like actually amongst people, as the advent of the internet dawned, we had forums.
Yes.
And we recognize there is not a ton of people who find the same major impact that forums once had. But
Absolutely.
you know, forums from the West Coast, as far as there's a number of there is actually one influencer specifically that, I mean, his whole identity was based on the fact that he became the face of a forum,
Yes.
and then, you know, sold it off or so. But there was a largely prolific club, as far as I'm concerned. I think they did great stuff. Well, and I should mention before I get to these folks, there was the Heritage Region Jeep Alliance,
Yep.
which was a little pre-forum, but they had a forum.
Yep.
But they were a super well-organized group and club when forums became a thing.
Well,
And then
that was a way to grow your club.
Yes.
Just like Naxtra.
absolutely.
That was a big, MJ and XJ only group.
Mm-hmm.
And at one time, anybody that had an XJ, didn't matter if it was a plow Jeep or you were going out wheeling it, was on there. What problems did you have? How did you fix it? What parts can you use? How do you lift it? What's this swap? What's that swap? And now at this point, they are almost infamous that there is some people like us that have doubled down.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only difference is we kind of evolve and get new
Correct.
Jeeps.
We
and
keep moving with the brand.
And we like the old Jeeps, and we'll have those and some new ones too, where these people have doubled down. They are XJ people.
Through and through.
And they have made XJ juggies, and they are going out and they were pushing the envelope. And because that Naxtra still exists.
Mm-hmm. They just got together last weekend.
Yeah.
So they actually have a yearly gathering, which... just like the CJ Corral or the Scrambler Corral, the group of these people who are the core inside drivers, right? As you're talking about that double down piece. And Naxtra just had their winter wheeling event, and our friends at Iron Rock Off-Road are a longtime sponsor of that because, like us, IRO hasn't... they have attempted to evolve with the brand. They also have stayed the course, right?
Yeah.
Rusty's Off-Road. Rusty is arguably one of the manufacturers who has not changed, right? He was there in the 70s and 80s, and he is there today in 2026.
Yep.
And and recently I have no qualms to talk about people. Terraflex is not the brand you think it is, right?
No.
At
one time it was a good group.
Spectacular, right?
But,
at one time it was spectacular, but it's been ripped, stripped, and dipped and sold overseas at this point that it's so far removed from what it once was that if you were to call them on a technical piece, as we have...
They have no idea.
They have no idea. They go, you know what? The people who designed this product, and yes, we still have some left over in inventory, but none of them work here anymore, and we actually don't know anything about it.
At this point, it's a shadow of the company it once was. And sadly... I will give it a couple more years, and it's not going to be relevant anymore because they have rode that name as far as they can. The wheels have fallen off. We're grinding on the chassis.
And we watched that happen to Rubicon Express.
Absolutely.
Pro Comp. This is part of that ebb and flow. And I do think, like Poison Spider, which recently was... the acquisition, which has been in the works for a while, was made public for ARB, which is purchased Poison Spider. Poison Spider has equally been relevant, then bankrupt, then relevant again, then bankrupted, and now ARB picked it up.
And each time, if I'm not mistaken, was a different change of guard as well.
It was a change of the guard.
Yeah.
And so as much as what we're trying to share here, the thing is that human nature says we want to feel like our moment was special.
Yes.
And while
it was.
And it was, right?
And you affected the community and the market while you were there. What you have to understand is time marches on.
Yes.
And you either are going to change with the times and stay relevant.
Yes.
Or you're going to double down and you're going to make it your niche. The hardest part is you can't be double down and do your niche and then expect the small town experience. If Naxtra exists because it's national, anybody with a Cherokee can get on there and talk about their Cherokees, but they're not the size they once were on their forums. Just
none of the
10,
forums
15
are.
years ago.
Yeah, and ultimately, I just feel the need to say it or share it, but other notable great clubs, Erie Jeep People was built out of the forum craze, and while Lake County Off-Road is not necessarily built out of the forum phase, they got into a lot of destination-based travel, and these are all clubs like near us.
And we've seen specifically with EJP that as different presidents come in and out and as things transition and different groups, people get into it and get out of it. It changes the club. It changes the direction.
At one time, they were a competitive off-road like they did these competitions. When my sister got heavily involved, it wasn't like trail riding. It was more of these time trials.
It was more like the old school stuff.
And it was more like the old school stuff that kind of transitioned from, the stuff that I was talking about Fred doing. And Tri-County still does. And that's where it's valuable. There are actual, as you mentioned, steadfast groups still doing what made them unique in the first place. Tri-County Four Wheelers is still doing Gravel Rama, and their event. And I encourage people to, one of the things I think is our piece is our ability to be aware of all of this.
Yep.
I do agree that the height of the JK was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I also loved the height of four-wheel drive hardware. And I loved the height of truck nationals that traveled the different fairgrounds. And so I guess my encouragement to people is that we are our own limitation. We are our own obstacle of the good old days. Right here in this moment, it can be as impactful. I had a conversation with a customer just recently who was really excited to get to Jeep Beach, talking about how Jeep Beach is, kind of the
pinnacle.
The pinnacle. And I had to say, well, I appreciate your perspective, but actually the internal is actually that Pigeon Forge Great Smoky Mountain Jeep Invasion is the pinnacle now.
Yes.
And this individual was not aware. They were like, oh, really?
We're going to always operate on a 4 to 5 year delay. And I would agree. 5 years ago, Jeep Beach was so much the pinnacle.
It was.
It was the destination of destinations. And it will be for a while yet because of that delay.
Yes.
But we are seeing growth in Great Smoky Mountain.
And arguably, and this comes back to an early part of the program, I had mentioned Red Rock Four-Wheelers and Easter Jeep Safari.
Yep.
And while I still think that is a mecca opportunity, Easter Jeep Safari and Jeep Jamboree USA's were the coup de grace.
Yep.
And as time marches on, we then get into a different capacity. We then get into our show circuit. You know what I mean? These things happen. And then we have Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival, which was, well, first of all, I think we got to give homage to Heritage Region Jeep Alliance and PA All Breeds.
Absolutely.
Both events no longer withstanding were spectacular, rooted in authenticity to the Jeep industry.
They were the Bantam before Bantam.
They were the Bantam before Bantam. They were the Jeep Beach before Jeep Beach.
Yep.
And then Bantam, and it has its heyday. People traveled internationally. If you were a pseudo celebrity of the Jeep industry, you were at Bantam.
There.
You know what I mean? I remember them announcing over the PA system how many countries were represented at the specific, at that specific year.
Yep.
I love the event, but we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and now we're seeing, some relevancy in the market is not where it was. Some companies have chosen not to attend.
Sure, but that's the
have.
same with Jeep Beach, folks.
Yes.
And that shift has happened with Smoky Mountain. Smoky Mountain is now that driving space.
Yep.
And likewise, I think that if you are a JT owner, depending on your specific niche market, social media commentary aside, right? Because I think that that's part of our human experience, which was a lot of what today's program was about. We have to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff. We can still have those great, awesome experiences, those club-oriented events. I know that there are good clubs doing good works within their local communities.
And if you are one of those people who go, oh, I miss blah, 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 or I wish it still was available for this, then get involved. That you are the creator of your own destiny. If you are missing something, then there's probably others missing it as well. They just need someone to kind of be a champion and say, hey, we're going to get together and we're going to do this.
And I agree entirely, and I think that's a great place to wind down on, because that's the point, is that you are the master of your destination.
Yes.
To be that epicenter. I mean, and I lovingly with Rob Morgan and possibly he's made the coolest vehicle out of arguably one of the most uncoolest model platforms.
Yeah.
He's that
infamous
can
at
be,
this point.
right? And I appreciate that so wholly, and of course I say that from a position of I am I am an original YJ owner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wish I could tell you that my first Jeep was a CJ or...
Yeah, it was relevant for where we were when we started.
It was. I had the model that was the space. And
first
YJs were cool to us owners at that time.
My first Jeep was an XJ. Was nothing to write home about.
And
I thought it was cool at the time.
And other people did too. We went to the meet and greets. We participated in the things. I was able to go to Truck Nationals and be part of it. My sister drove a YJ. I drove a YJ. My dad drove a YJ. We loaded up as family members, and we drove up to the local ski resort in the summer, and we played putt-putt golf, and we had lunch, and we did Jeep trips down to the down to the Allegheny River and forest, and went adventuring. And that was awesome. That model helped us go there. You know what I mean? And
again, so it's a kind of a parting thought, because I know we got to wind down on this. Something I tell my kids all the time is this summer will be the only summer you are this age and this experience. And that is so much true, even with the Jeep community, is this year is specifically special because of this year. And when you hit down on, life is hard and times are hard, you have to stop and go, okay, I'm going to reflect and go like for my son, he's only going to be 12 for one season. Mm-hmm. And then he's 13 and it's different. So because of that, the Jeep events for this summer are only going to be the way they are for this summer. So enjoy them and experience them. And next year will be different, but hopefully better, or changing different. And you have to feel that and be willing to expand that.
And create that opportunity experience. And that was the joke I was hoping that was land for, Rob Morgan and Daddy Jeep, is a sense that he can take this uncool vehicle and make sure that other people, regardless of model platform, can have a great time under this unified experience of the Jeep brand.
Do I say him? He said he thought you were talking about the Dub J,
which is still not a cool vehicle. It absolutely was not coming off my lips because it's a Dub J. On that note, folks, we are going, if you want to know about our weekend updates, stay tuned through the outro and we'll let you know what things are going on. We will be back again next week with us fumbling through. Jeff may or may not be joining us. That will, time will tell, but we wish him and his family the best in this current experience. If there's something here that, touched upon and you felt was relevant, or you just want to tell us how we're doing, reach out to us at contact, CONTACT, at sfj4x4.com. Or you can hit us up on our text-only number, 440-813-21... Nope, 855-2100. I knew something didn't sound right. I don't know. Maybe I did that. Lock, unlock source.
Yeah, but...
Whatever.
Weekend updates. So, for my weekend update, I traveled all over the area. I went both west and east to get Model T parts. I went west on Saturday after work to get a grill shell and pedals and some taillights from a cool friend that I actually met by selling him parts.
Nice.
Years ago for his Model T.
I'm sorry, I'm robbing your moment to say that I used to work in nonprofit. People may or may not know that. I was actually even in youth ministry. So I was in some pretty heavy social spaces for about a decade prior to opening up SFJ 4x4 full time. And I will continue to say, I've met and made better and deeper connections with people through this shared bond.
Yep.
As you're sharing now that you met this guy because of buying and selling,
parts,
car parts and whatnot. Yep. But man, that is such a cool thing to sit back and reflect upon.
Not only that, he followed along with the 36 build. He's on all my socials. He was excited of that build. He's excited about this build, and he wanted to help out.
Cool.
He's like, I have these parts. I'm not going to use them. These are literally the parts you need. I'm not looking to make a profit. I just want my investment back. So investment for me was low allowed me to justify driving, an hour. And he was driving.
Hour's not bad.
Yeah, but he was also driving from him. We have quite a big distance away. And, met up in a parking lot and swapped parts off a tailgate. And it was just a good experience. And it's literally parts I need. And then Sunday, we got up and we drove to Western PA. Or not Western PA, Western New York. I'm sorry. To the snow.
Same difference.
Same difference. One has tolls, one doesn't. To Hamburg, New York, to the Snowbuster swap meet. And one of the cool things about that swap meet is we've seen, I can talk about the old guard change.
Yes.
Swap meets have also been evolving. And back in the day, a swap meet was you took the crap out of your garage that you didn't use on the build, or my interest changed and I was into this car, now I'm into that car. And I just want to get it out of my way. And so, $10, $20, stuff was relatively cheap.
Yes.
And the goal is that I'm getting rid of stuff that I don't need, but I can go over here and maybe my interests are actually on this other table and I can get cheap parts, and you swap those around. This swap meet is still like that.
Okay.
So it's just pretty cool. And it's put on by the Model A club of that area.
Okay.
So,
Talking about clubs.
Talking about clubs.
Just marching on.
And because of that, we have an old guard
Yes.
of sorts there. And I got to talk to a very nice gentleman. He was in his mid-80s. Would never know it talking to him. But he has been into distributors and, changing the curves and doing carburetors and fuel pumps and all that kind of stuff. That was his specialty. Very nice gentleman. Wanted to share his contact info, and he was like, if you have any questions, if you need any kind of stuff answered or any way I can help you, I'm more than happy to. And I was able to buy some parts from him very reasonably priced, because again, he's just wanting to assist the next generation to do this cool stuff.
Sure.
So because of that, I was able to get a starter for a reasonable price for the T. I was able to get a timing set from it. I was able to get some parts. If you watched my Instagram update, I actually got some A-pillars from another customer now, or not customer, another friend. Now he does stuff a little bit more the flipping game. He buys them cheap, tries to make a profit. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But that's not the originality of the swap meet.
Sure.
With that said, I was still able to get these parts at a reasonable cost, mainly because he's like,
you needed them and he didn't.
absolutely. And it was fun. He's like, I'm never buying Model T parts again. There's just not good for flipping parts. It's fair.
Yeah.
That's why I'm into it.
Yeah. It's like CJ Willie parts, like the old CJ2A 3.
Yeah.
They're not good for flipping, folks.
No. No. So in any regard, I was able to do that. We all went as a family, so it was fun, and put some road miles on a Jeep.
Yeah.
And filled the bed with some cool parts, and
sounds
that's
like a great weekend.
That's kind of literally serpenticity, or however you say that word.
Wow. Fratational ship or something?
Yeah.
What fraternal
It
ship?
just works in with our topic.
Serendipitous, yes.
That word.
Or serendipity. I dig it. I was unable to do our to go with my wife with our projected road trip. We should have been down in Pittsburgh this weekend. Unfortunately, I too was dealing with a sick child, maybe a little less sick than what Jeffrey's dealing with.
Yeah.
But it helped me kind of sharpen my axe, if you will, which is a phrase we use internally regarding being able to kind of do some forethought, some paper trail, some organizing, some kind of thorough planning.
And sometimes you need some reason to focus and not run and run and run and run.
Absolutely. and that, normally being my and my family's MO, I was able to, another small business owner, we talked for over 3 hours, kind of just game planning and facilitating some,
Filling up your cup.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And as, Scott has long time said, and oftentimes people ask, like, what project I want to build or I want to work on next or whatever. Scott has often said the company is my primary project. As much as I love the Jeeps and wheeling, it's one of the reasons I love wheeling old pieces of junk is as much as I would love to do a great, big, elaborate, over-the-top vehicle, my time is consumed ensuring that opportunity exists for our customers.
Mm-hmm.
And then the business itself is the project, for me. So that was fulfilling. But then Ultimately, Saturday night, I was here into the shop trying to work on some infrastructure stuff, doing some tractoring and some jeeping in the evening because my wife was returning home. My kid was, checked out, and it was good for me to be able to kind of hunker into some stuff here. And furthermore, into Sunday, I am hoping to put Rustington III back onto the road for, if nothing else, a short period of time, which fills my cup to be like,
Yes.
What type of derelict piece of junk Jeep
Can I push into the shape of a Jeep?
and then drive in a semi-legal and safe fashion?
Yes.
Right? And so...
It's so much fun when you do that too. Because your expectations are different.
They are. They
It's
just
like,
are.
You got me to work today. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, man, I can't believe that thing fired up. And,
Yeah.
and of course, Rustington, what I did with it, which I'm at kind of quite looking forward to, and I dealt with over the weekend, is I got rid of the top, and I just have a bikini top and a windjammer and surrounds. So it's not quite topless in the middle of January, February.
It's way more topless than Scott wants.
Yeah. So I was having a ball in that, and I look forward to trying to run around, run around town a little bit, maybe hit the trail with it in the near future. So it is something that I'm trying to shove into the shape of fitting in my life at this moment. Well, we're going to do this, and I don't know if there's going to be music. I don't know if there's going to be whatever.
We're doing. We're
There
gonna
was
do
some-
a thing.
It's good to have an obscure hobby. Parts are definitely cheaper. Lee, nothing that comes out your mouth is about vehicle collections, because Lee has the most like abstract grouping of things.
Yes.
And he's constantly just like lost derelict vehicles of a different nature keep following him home.
Yes.
There were some great comments in the comment thread. Thank you, all of you who jumped in there and shared and communicated. And I thought was really funny was Rob had affirmed us, and he said, "You guys did a good job on your own." But then I cobbed up the transitional scene, and he goes, "Well, you were doing good." And as far as Giacca Jeepers there, he's suggesting your little soundbite for the do being our new outro.
Oh boy.
So there should be music, and then I should be able to end the live. But we didn't cover that part. So until next time,
Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Jeep.